So welcome to another exploration with our Earth Nouveau hub. Welcome to the gathering. And today we're just going to have a little bit of a mixed bag and see what comes up for us. We're getting close to Christmas now. We're getting close to a reset. We're getting close to a pause, like we spoke about last time. And Tanya was just telling us about a reading in the card that she drew that inspired her. So maybe we have you repeat that again.
Sure. So I had a reading from a friend of mine yesterday, and one of the cards that came up, she uses the Voyager Tarot, and I'll see if I can pull it up so you guys can see it.
Maybe
the
share.
The Voyager Tarot is like a deck that has all these different collages. And I just love, I used to do a lot of collage work myself, so I really love that. But the Preserver is the card that this is called. And it's called Woman of Worlds. And it's sort of in the traditional tarot, it is equivalent to the Queen of Pentacles or the Queen of Earth. You know, and today in the galactic calendar is the red magnetic Earth. So we're at the start of this next 13-day cycle. Okay, so I just made my background this image, so I'll just move out of the way so you can see it. So the Woman of Worlds, it's the mother, the queen, the preserver of all that is good. And as we've gone through these last few years where there's been so much energetic deconstruction, it feels like as the layers peel back and peel back and peel away, right? Each of us are in our own respective areas, in our own respective work, but also deconstructing energy, but not the energy of the good and the true, right? It's like as the imbalanced energy deconstructs, the energy underneath that is of Gaia, of worlds, that purity of the original creative force is there. It's just like we're uncovering it layer after layer after layer. So when we're standing, in our power and in our strength, I think we can really connect to this, being of the world but not in it, right? Being able to connect with all of those beautiful things, the plants, the flowers, life, love, joy, and harmony. There is that rhythm of harmony. We talked a lot about animals and the way they're working in harmony together. And we have the ability to do that too. And I see the title Woman of Worlds. And here we are, women of worlds, from different places all over the world. But also, when we're talking about women of worlds, it's not just this world we're talking about, right? We're talking about all of those places that we've been in the galactic sphere, in the multidimensional sphere. We've been Lyrans, we've been Arcturans, we've been Sirians and Pleiadians and Alpha Centaurians and Andromedans. We've traveled Orions, we've traveled through multidimensional galaxies, multiple universes. And this is the wisdom that we're bringing here and now to sort of have rebirth of that, I don't know, original intention of creation, original intention of Gaia.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so that's what I've been mulling on over the last, not 24 hours quite, but yeah, I love that. You know, for that to come up in my tarot reading as like my card, right?
Mhm.
That card that's representing me right now. It's just a good reminder, I think, of you know who I am as a spiritual being in a human body, right? What my directive is to you know help to deconstruct the old, but also remember the 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 good, remember the true, remember the peace and the harmony and the joy and the love and the light and community and the way we have the ability to work together to help and share.
So you were saying this is the card, it's called the preserver, right?
Mhm, mhm.
When I look at, you know, something so intricately woven together like this card, you know, I'm always inclined to look what's between the lines. You know,
Yeah,
like Mary,
yeah.
she said she, you know, when she was a little kid, she used to squint and saw things. Everything just became much bigger. So I'm wondering, as we're looking at that lovely picture there and looking between the lines, I'm just wondering, how can we embody that energy of preservation in our day-to-day life?
I mean, we've talked about groundedness over and over and over again, right? To me, part of it is groundedness and awareness, right? That ability to back up and see the big picture, to see what's going on around us, but also feel, you know, feeling the energy of what's going on collectively and universally. And I mean, it just seems like there's so much information coming through right now. So as I look at this card, right, and I see all of the collages, you can see like the people dancing here, you can see multiple pictures of Earth. I'm not sure what that is, but it looks like, I thought it was a flower. You can see a woman healing. You can see, you know, a woman, a pregnant woman, and a child. You know, so all of these things go, you know, over and over and over again, right? That's part of human life, right? The cycle of life, the cycle of death. And is it our in our original blueprint to die like that? I don't know. That's debatable, depending upon who you talk to. But you know, it's interesting. When I was visiting Egypt, there was one day where we went out to the desert and walked out. It was one of the first nights we were there. We walked out and just stood on the Sahara Desert at sunset. And it was starting to, you know, it was starting to get dark and the sky was really, really beautiful. There were dogs that were like our guardians hanging out with us. We walked up this sort of hill, this rise, and I could see, you know, just listening to the land and being on the land that was so ancient. I saw an image of people live, living and dying and planting and harvesting and having children and children playing in the river, you know, flooding and receding and flooding and receding. It was like I saw a time lapse image of this centuries over centuries over centuries, you know, like just the rhythm of life. And the guy who lives on the land right there next to the desert that our friend Melanie knows said, I see what you see. And it was just so, so wonderful to be able to witness that rhythm of life over millennia, you know, and have a witness to me witnessing it as well. Because here we were just standing in this ancient place where all of these civilizations had been buried under the sand, deconstructed over time, and reconstructed anew. And to me, it was just, can't even really describe the feeling of it, but just the immensity of that scope of time, you know, and that we've always been doing this. You know, this is who we are as humans. You know, we go through these life milestones, right? Where we're born, and then we learn as children, and then we go through puberty and become, you know, become adults and fall in love and have relationships, and you know, some get married, some choose their own path other than that, and some have children and some don't, but we're all working as, I think, preservers of life. Yeah, I just really love that, and that's what this card really speaks to me of.
Very good. And I'm just, again, I'm looking at, I've just written down pre-server, and it has included the pre-serve. So we are serving life, just like what you so beautifully just put together. We are actually serving life, because without us, there is no creation, at least not along those lines, the way we are serving life, right? And the preservation of the ancient knowledge that is coming through now.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, you know, I've been decoding. I've looked at I think I showed you guys once, when I was in Cusco, I had this golden plate, which is a star map, the golden star map, an Inca golden star map. And I started decoding this now. And it's taking me to the weirdest places, you know, and you could look at it and say, well, that's like drawing of a 4-year-old. I could, you know, if you look at the way it's drawn, and of course the symbolism of all the various symbols is just, there is no particular decoding out there, in fact, of that plate or that map. So there's all different sorts of ideas that are flying around with that. But it's almost like what I've come to is, without going into the details now, is like something that we've got it all backwards. When we look at those ancient stories, and we call them myths, we call them metaphorical representations and stuff like that. These are all stories of happenings. Hold on, Mary, are you going out? I can't hear you. She's freaking me out because I can't hear you. You've got it.
You're muted.
Muted.
Sorry, I have to go out, but I'm not leaving. I can stay on until 6. I'm going out in the car, but I have to go out. But I will be talking and listening to you as I'm driving.
Okay. I was just thought we're losing you because you're getting all dressed up and like.
I know, I'm putting on the coat and cap because it's really cold.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see you in the car.
Yeah.
That's that plate, that star map. That when I stood there in front of that star map, come back up, Sandrine, don't worry. I burst into tears, and I was the only one of the group in that particular room, and I had obviously no idea why, and I still, you know, working on what that is and why this has come about. But what I'm saying is, it's taken me to Jason and the Argonauts and the Ark of Osiris, and you know, and resurrection and the hero's journey, and you know, working with people to help me put that together and getting more ideas. And then we've got the oval of Viracocha or not, and a Lake Titicaca is coming in. And there's so many things are coming in. It's like, oh my God, this is all something that I know from somewhere. And that preservation of knowledge is all coming sort of together now, because from the preservation of knowledge, from the preservation of these artifacts, and not just artifacts, but things that we find or things that find us in our lives, all of a sudden, what seems to happen is we're starting to put those pieces and puzzles together. And it is such a journey of discovery. And, you know, ours just disappear once you get started, because the beautiful thing now is we have Google for that. So I can go on Google, I can read up on the stories and the mythologies. And this guy says, no, this is a star. No, this is not a star. This is, you know, this or that. And then but you are in this place of where you got to make it up yourself. You got to, what resonates with me, right? And how can I serve, getting back to your card, how can I serve myself for my voyage, my discovery in my journey here that will eventually, you know, have an impact? Because when I start raising my levels of awareness, you know, other people's will benefit from that. Even if they don't want to, because that's the beautiful thing. But when I said we're having things backwards, what I started realizing, and there will be a time where I will be able to put this in better words once I really know what it means to me. But it's like, when I look at the wars today, just as a global idea, the connections go back to ancient stories. And we are living them out now, just in different costumes and different bodies. It's really, really interesting. Because when I looked at the Jason and the Argonauts, you know, and all the artifacts are now in Georgia, which used to be Russia. And there's a lot going on now with, you know, Georgia and the Western world and things like that. And, you know, for me to say something that makes sense, I really need to put this together in a better way. But just to throw this in like this, I'm like, oh my God, what's happening right now? This happened then. And we think it's a myth, but what is a myth? There's truth in a myth, right?
I'm currently reading a book by he's a journalist, a French journalist, and it came out in the 1968, 67-ish. And he's kind of like Graham Hancock style, you know, he's an investigative journalist and he just put things together. It's called The Morning of the Magicians. And it's absolutely fantastic. There is a chapter in there on alchemy that is like, I actually going to buy the book just to read it, you know, because I'm currently listening to it on Audible. So I just need to, you know, read things to, you know, to get another perspective on it. But there is so much said in the introduction there that, okay, so the book came out in the late 60s, and then it came reprinted again in the 90s. And that's when they wrote a new introduction to it, but they didn't move anything on the book itself, okay, or change anything, because they did not even update the science in there, because it doesn't matter, you know. What it is talking about is about this, especially in the introduction, is that we have no clue how much wisdom got lost, which is what we are also stating a lot, you know. There is nothing new under the sun. Electricity wasn't invented by us, you know. The alchemist invented the H-bomb, and the alchemist, you know, we talk dark ages here, 800, you know, even before that, you know, because everybody was just trying to manipulate things in a sense. So there is really nothing that we invented. We did not even invent plastic, because apparently in ancient texts you can find a recipe for plastic. Because I mean, there has been oil, right? I mean, but just to state this fact that what we always think came up like 200 years ago, that's nothing new. It's just a recycling of the cycles that are coming on and on and on and on, you know, because we are at a different level of the spiral, that's for sure, right? but there is not really anything that is new. I mean, artificial intelligence is not even new, because who put it together? I mean, we put it together, right? It's just algorithms that are just trying to make a map of coming up with the most emergent, intelligent, answer to the question that you're posing it. And it's just algorithms, again, put together by what is already before. And that is exactly what we are doing. We're just putting things together of what already exists. We're just transmuting it in a different way, right? That is what we're still doing. What comes out of it is what is coming out. Is, again, it's the next level on the spiral. And today, also in the chapter that just listened to this afternoon, it talks about Charles H. Hoyt Ford. I have never heard of him. It's Fort, and apparently he is one of those people that questioned everything and even came up with a whole new way of looking at things, especially the paranormal, because apparently in those paranormal cycles, his last name is used as a, when you're talking about a paranormal event, you say it's a Fortean event, Fortean. I have never heard of that. I've never come across it. Apparently it's a thing. So, but he's a guy from the early early 20th century. So and he just looked at everything and he says, what is a scientist? What is that? It's just because we think that they know everything. They don't know anything at all. They're just doing the same shit up that you are doing. They're just doing it in a different way. They apparently applying a scientific method. But whatever, you can apply that method too, and maybe your method is as valid as theirs, right? It's just that because 100 idiots are typing I, is I then the word that 100 people need to know. It's all this putting everything into a different perspective. And I mean, you can call it skepticism, you can call it whatever you want, but I just love this, because this is exactly what we have been trying, and you guys even longer, trying to do this exploration of the consciousness. In a sense, it's like we're just looking at it from a different point of view and different perspectives, and we are allowing for these other perspectives and different views to actually, change us, because that is another thing about the alchemy. It's not that you are transmuting that element in front of you, but you are by that fact also transmuted, because you're seeing something that is happening that you never thought that could happen, and suddenly it is happening. So it will change also you, and whatever vibrations are coming from it, or whatever you are changing in the environment, it will also change you to an extent. So that is just, and they just say, I mean, if you want to know something, just go and sit in the library and find the oldest book that you can find and start reading it, and you will find out that there's nothing new under the sun. It's just a different way of putting it there.
Yeah, that's the preservation. Again, the preserver. Everything is and has been preserved, and and this is what I love about when we are starting to understand the multidimensionality, and the different worlds we live in and we have lived in, and many of us have been founder beings. These preserved data sources, doesn't have to be just an artifact. We have put them for us to find and to remember. Because what you're saying, Sandrine, is you're beautifully explaining the whole idea, what we are here for, because it's getting out of the amnesia. Because
yes,
like it's just that we have forgotten. We have forgotten what we have put forward for ourselves. And that's really it. It's all about, taking the veils off, or looking between the lines, or, I think we're in an era of intuitive scientists, intuitive physicists, intuitive archaeologists, or we just call them all explorers, explorers like we do of consciousness. And whilst we're doing this, we're just, leveling up and heighten our consciousness. And that kind of consciousness is an innate state, an inherent state of awareness. And I think there is a difference, we have to say, because of all those explorations that we have put ourselves through over the millennia now, in male bodies, in female bodies, in fighting the left and the right hemisphere, and now coming together, as one again. There is an element of huge development versus what we used to be because of the levels of awareness. We might have been, probably more psychic and maybe had more of our access to our psionic skills and all of that. But we never had that self-reflective awareness of that I am, of that fortified I am presence, of that individuality, for the masses of the individuals. They wouldn't have even called themselves individuals because there was always that control and domination pretty much, not from the beginning, but for a very, 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 very long time. And even before that, it was a hive mind, it was a soul consciousness, and then that exploration into the individual consciousness is something that is different. But at the end of the day, it's a repurposing of information over and over again, presenting it in different ways.
Well, and with new intention.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So even though it's, all of these things have been around. I was just thinking about Darwin, right? Before he wrote The Origin of Species and the way he traveled around the world, he went to Galapagos, he went, collected all different types of species through the South Pacific and, along the Pacific Rim. And when he came back to the UK, he took his observations and his, scientific method of, journaling, like writing down everything he saw and how it related to other things. And then he wrote his Origin of Species, right? And I mean, that was just from his observations, of life in different places on the planet. And he was really especially fascinated with the Galapagos Islands and the way the species there had evolved differently from species on from Central America, South and Central America. I think about specifically the iguanas, the lizards, right? Developed the ability and to swim with finned feet. And they grew like a finned spine and almost like a fin tail in a way. And when he saw those, he could see the evolution, the way that those species were maybe once part of the same species as you see a lot in South America and like Mexico. And they shifted being in that island environment, right? I just find it really fascinating. Also, just going back to this gold plate for a second.
Yeah.
Above Sandrine's left shoulder is like a little tree.
It's a
And
tree of life.
yeah, if you move the other way, oh, there it is. Yeah, that one right there in that bottom right-hand corner. There's very similar images from ancient Sumeria of the extraterrestrial beings working on a tree like that and replacing seeds, right? And so ancient alien theorists suggest that they are manipulating the DNA code. So is that tree a representation of the DNA code? I mean, maybe, but that memory that I feel, of the way we are star people. We are star brothers and sisters, and the way that we have changed over the millennia, right? In good ways and in not so good ways, right? That individualization that you were talking about, there's a crystal that connects with that called charoite, and it's a dark purple and black gemstone that has to do with the individuation of the journey, right? Instead of that group consciousness that we still see in the collective, people running on the hamster wheel, going to work, coming home, going to work, coming home, drinking coffee to wake up, drinking a drink, cocktail to go to sleep, taking a pill to go to sleep. It's part of that cycle that we've all separated and disconnected from in a way. But now we can be on our individuated journey, our path, and our purpose to really explore what that means as a being of light in a human body, as a soul, as an oversoul, an avatar. Yeah. And more and more people are sharing their individual journey. Yeah. Right. Those stories are being celebrated and heard and listened to, very like you wrote your book, Synchronistic.
Yes.
Right. And talking about each one of our individual journey that is similar but different, right? Those steps we take to our paths of enlightenment. Each step that I'm taking, I may be walking a different path than you, and our paths go like this, and now they come together here and they're going to go apart, and we're going to, walk together with some of the same, information and understanding, and then use our individual gifts to bring forth what we need in our lives and in our areas.
And I want to actually call that choice for everyone, that free will choice that every single one of us has in this free will universe. Because I like your you mentioning Darwin, right? He's having this opportunity to go, and he comes back with his very individual perception of what theory did he bring up?
The evolution,
right? Which was really
or Origin of Species was the was the name of his book, and that was written in the 1850s.
The 1850s, and everyone bloody believed in this shit. Survival of the fittest. Are you joking? Mm-hmm. No. So this is the thing, because nobody else had that opportunity to go out there and actually do the explorations based on what they know, what they have experienced. We were drawn into, okay, this is it, survival of the fittest. And everybody started believing in this, and
and therein
built around that.
And therein lies the problem. It's not that he came up with this; it was just his interpretation of it.
Well,
I mean, we have to give total credit to whatever this man was actually put, because it went completely against mainstream. I mean, oh my goodness. I mean, if nowadays he would come up with that and we would still not know what the evolution is, he would be shunned to like every other alternative, minded scientist or explorer out there, is being shunned today because we still believe in aliens. Oh, it was the aliens. But Darwin could have said, if Darwin would have said, it maybe had an alien influence, it would have been, he probably even thought it at one stage in his mind, because how could it happen? How can it be? It's his interpretation. And this is, I think, where the mainstream, and that is also in archaeology, what we see, everything that came out of this early 20th century, or the late 19th, earliest 20th century, everything is being taken for granted, that what they came up with is the law,
Well, exactly.
And that is like, why?
Well, it's interesting too that Darwin book created a really interesting divide in society where a lot of a lot of people jumped on that bandwagon, but then there were people that backed up into more of religious, back to religion. And you see it. It's interesting. I studied, Victorian literature, especially through the poetry, and you really see it in the poetry of like, the Rossettis, Browning. You can look at what they're writing about, and they're all working with, sort of like this theory versus this other theory. But I think you're totally on point with the way that created a structure of thinking that then everyone based their perceptions on. You see it like with the early Bainbridge scholars when they started digging Egypt out of the sand too. It's like, oh, their theories were the ones that were the right ones. And of course, we're learning so much more every day as that place gets excavated. But it was, to me, seeing that fast motion time lapse of life when I was standing in that desert just showed me that still, no matter what people are thinking, no matter what people are believing, life still goes on. Right? Life still goes on.
Yeah. And now the invitation goes out to everyone allow themselves to have a thinking mind, an intuitive mind, an imaginary mind, an open mind. Not from a place of, you guys are absolutely right. We're not shunting any of those people that have come before and brought stuff up, because they already, as you said, they created a friction between some believed, some didn't. Some used religion as a crutch to get to the spiritual because that was something that they knew, right? And then unfortunately that got bastardized, but it doesn't matter because eventually we're getting there. And that, like, women of the worlds, it's like people of the worlds, right?
People.
Everyone is now invited to step forward and say, hey, let me think about this. What do I know? Let me discover my own knowingness that got sort of hijacked once we went into that phase of amnesia. And let's bring that back and let's integrate the male and the female perspective of both, because that's, at the end of the day, we talked about this ad nauseum, male, female, and we looked at all the different sort of ways of expression. But now this is something that leads back all the way back to amnesia. How did that even happen in the first place? That we did fall asleep. And there are people who are working on that to bring that forth. Why did that even happen in the beginning? And then, there is a bigger picture of that male-female integration. Because frankly, we got to get back. We got to get out of duality. We got to get back into singularity. We got to get back into, away from the bastardization of sexuality into the sensuality as creativity, talking about, women of the world, the bastardization of the feminine, but also the manipulation of the patriarchy, because that is sort of ingrained in the false matrix. That patriarchal bastardization is the best word I can think of, is literally in the algorithms. And that's something that we need to change. We need to come back. We need to get into that neutral, sacred, neutral perspective that does create. Remember, so many years, we've been doing this now for 4 years. And I do remember saying in the beginning when I didn't know, it's like, okay, sacred neutrality, we're all getting there, but it doesn't really create. because, you know, we need to have a trigger, we need to have a challenge in order to learn, because I didn't understand the physics. I was still based on, you know, thinking of the electromagnetics, magnetics being the female, electric being the male. And only recently, if obviously, you know, been listening to Nassim, you know, and I'm sort of getting a grip now of this black hole and the curvature of the spinning and the photon. And it's like, oh, it's not about that. It's not about challenge. We can actually create without challenge. So this is where then Darwin comes in, like, survival of the fittest, I don't know. Because also the ones that are not fit, they will still survive because they have a place here to hold the balance. It's not about, you know, and but what has that done? 1800, you were saying, what has that done? It has created this whole balava and scenario of we have to be successful, hardship, work hard in order to, you know, create, be successful in all of this. This is all based on that theory. And this is like, okay, cool. Now we gotta, okay, preserve that memory, use it and say, okay, what else is possible here that we haven't actually considered yet? And how can we create from a place of joy, of bliss, of passion?
Well, and I think out creating that. You know, my husband's been listening to a lot of like debate around religion. And one of the things he was listening to was the Old Testament versus like the New Testament, and some argument that these guys were having. But the biblical scholar was talking about the Old Testament versus the New Testament. And this Darwin thing, survival of the fittest, is reminding me of this, where he was saying, well, in a nutshell, the Old Testament is about an eye for an eye, right? Where the New Testament is about compassion and love, you know, the work of Yeshua. And I think that kind of plays into what we're talking about here with like that survival of the fittest, the eye for the eye, you know, kill or be killed, take revenge on those who have killed you. You know, if someone pokes your eye out, you take their eye too, right? And that's sort of like that same survival of the fittest theory. So Darwin wasn't the first to invent that theory, right? It's written in what, Leviticus, I think. So it's interesting how, I think you're right, Martina, how that's created almost like a template structure that our society has been running on. And I'm going to use one of your words, let's outcreate that. We don't need that anymore, right? It's old, an old energetic way of thinking, but it's also the duality, right? It's like us versus them.
Exactly.
Polarity. Yeah.
And that needs to be, I mean, that's, you know, but that takes us back to the self-mastery, and that it is a journey that has to start on the inside. And that doesn't mean that you can't, you know, interact with other people. You know, it's actually depending on what kind of, you know, how you are sort of how you're filtering information. You know, we need those mirrors. We need those mirrors on the outside. And also, you know, we live in a participatory universe. So it's like, you know, it's no point saying that I'm an island on my own, because I'm not. Nobody can. And again, that's where the unified physics, you know, is being so tremendously helpful, because it combines, there's this intuitiveness and that knowingness, that spiritual background of people who can actually unify that. And it takes us back to what it apparently used to be, right? Science, spirituality, as one. Before, yeah.
What comes in there is also the way how so the oneness, okay, so we are all one, but then in certain situations where you're thrown in, you're actually being triggered by another person for whatever reason, and you don't really feel immediately at one with them. And I have now lately, and this is also because of the course that I'm doing, because it's a lot about reflection and you know, the companionship and spiritual in erudition, in a sense. So on Sunday I was at a biodanza. It's dancing, but in a oneness. So actually you come together and you are being led into a meditation, and it's dancing, but you are also being invited to actually see the other one as one, you know. So it's about touching the other person, but always with a certain, you know, with the distance, but you know, the appropriate distance, let's say, yeah, appropriateness. And what was wonderful is that I explored not only my own extent, you know, of moving with the sounds and going in and letting go, and then also it was a rather small group, which was good. I didn't know anybody in there, which was good for me as well. And then I tried to find out what were the triggers of me not immediately connecting to some of the people in there. There was 2 or 3 where it was like instant. It was like instant connection. There was even somebody who was like, "Oh, but you must know her because you," and I'm like, "I have no idea. I just met her 20 minutes ago." A little bit like it happened with Martina and myself, in a sense, you know. It was really funny. But then I also tried to find out, you know, in the other people that I felt triggered by, you know, why would I not have an instant connection with them? And was it, what was it? Was it a physicality? Was it a personality issue or character that they, you know, started to show? It was over the whole day. So we had a few and in intense moments as well, right? So that I found very interesting, to go into what it is that when you are with other people, and why you are feeling triggered by them, in a sense, and then letting go of those triggers, you know, working on it on, well, it's a human, it's just me in a different, because what triggers me is probably what is something either that I do not like about myself and that I see reflected, or something that I would love to have, but I don't, because I have not been able to have it, in a sense, right? For whatever reason it is that triggers you. So yeah, I find that very interesting to go now I do it especially with groups that I don't, you know, where I don't know the people, because usually with the people that you're surrounding you with is, you know, you like them. Well, mostly, right?
In theory.
Let's add another mirror there, yeah? Let's add the mirror that what people see in you, the mirror that you represent.
That I represent to them.
Yeah. And then how would you know that? You would know that by psychically picking up their rejection of you or their like for you. And that in itself could be an interesting observation as well, because, or exploration, because it's maybe not that you get triggered by them, but they get triggered by you. And because of the psychic capacity, you all of a sudden, it's like, whoosh, you get that rejection and you think, oh, I don't like this bitch. And in reality, she's been rejecting you energetically because of karmic resolution of some sort of resonance, or this resonance, you know, based on a meeting you guys, a lifetime you might have had in the past. So this is quite interesting. Now, what obviously comes up here is, you know, how do we actually define oneness? What is
Yeah. Before you say that, I just want to say something about that video that you posted, that Louise Hayes video about being alone.
Yes,
because this talks exactly about what you're talking about, this energy of people who have gone through the self-mastery journey to hold a certain frequency of energy, and that other people don't have a matching resonant frequency because they haven't gone through and done the work. Right. So when you're feeling that rejection or polarization, you know, it's maybe just because as you are standing in your power, resonating your energetic signature, the person there can't match that or blend with it because they haven't gone through their own self-mastery journey. And your mere presence is working as a mirror for them to bring up their shadows and unresolved trauma. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is really, 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 really important on the way forward for people who are infiltrators. Because, you know, somebody could argue now, okay, well, that's bullshit because if you don't resonate with people, you wouldn't be with them. Well, it doesn't work that way at all. Because as I said, we're living in a participatory, or Nassim said, participatory universe. It's a nice way of saying it. And if you are an infiltrator, if you're a catalyst for change, let's call it that. And lots of us are catalysts because we have a certain, I would say, level of neutrality or level of self-mastery. When you have that, not just us, lots of people have, you can move into anything and then just allow, you know, what other people want to react because it doesn't touch you. You might still perceive it, but you don't entangle with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this is very powerful because it's almost like you are a server. Talking about pre-service, preserving, you know, we are servers to that awakening process, self-realization, you know, a changing of matrices and all of that, because we don't hold back. We don't just sit at home. No, we have fortified our I am presence to a certain extent that we can move into the front. I don't want to call it war, but, you know, into energetic mismatching, because it doesn't do anything to us because we are transmuting that energy. That doesn't necessarily mean you're not picking it up because you have a certain level of psychic awareness. You can totally know if somebody likes you or not, you know, but that's okay. Maybe what if that has nothing to do with you anymore? As just like you said, Tanya, your levels of frequency are so high now, or at a certain level now, that it triggers people. And what if that is what you're here for? In a way. Exactly. And not everybody wants to do that because it can be very uncomfortable. If you take it on yourself, then it's uncomfortable because you think, oh God, you know, I'm still having to do so much work. And if not, and you have to really know when to walk away and when, you know, what to move through or, you know, alchemize it or, you know, what to do and when. Because these kind of triggers now, as you also said, you know, Tanya, it's like we're not just living in a 3D world. I mean, we're living in a 3D world, but the 3D is no longer, our perception has become so much bigger, it's become multidimensional now. So you might meet somebody at the dance, you know, you have had, you know, a Draco-Lyran war with. And he or she killed you then, or you killed them. And all of a sudden there is a resonance. There's still a resonance, but it comes out for the resolution. And if there's no awareness, there's no resolution. Awareness is change. So you're a little bit on your own there because you've got to do this journey by yourself then. And this is the alone, which again, L1. Even if you think you're alone in a room with millions of people, you're still one. So it's there's a lot of different perspectives that we have to, I think we said that before, we're all a bit shapeshifters, right? We have to be able to shapeshift the whole time and, you know, put ourselves in look at a different perspective, but not entangling with it, you know? If you so choose, you know, if that is fun for you, for me, that would be fun. For some people, it's not. Well, then they just walk away. And that's okay too. because that's catalyzing, you know, other people's reactions, perceptions at the same time, and then they can do with it whatever they want, because you do not stab them energetically in the back. You just say, hey, space holding. Okay, I hold the space for you. I can see you hate the shit out of me. Yeah, that's fine. It's okay.
I just had a memory of many years ago when I first moved to the Bay Area, and I was in a spoken word band and came across this guy who my ex-boyfriend was collaborating with, and just like daggers from this person. And I'm like, gosh, that energy is just weird, like weird. And I wouldn't have stated it this way, but he was continually like energetically attacking me. And so I did a meditation around it, and I had a memory of being in a war, some kind of galactic war, and fighting him in like hand-to-hand combat. And I was the one who like killed him. And I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. I can understand why, you know, even though he wouldn't, I don't know if he remembered that or what, but he didn't like me. It's like, oh yeah, well, I killed you in that lifetime, and so maybe you're still angry about that, you know. But it was, you know, my realization to be able to let that go and back up, and you know, not entangle with the animosity.
Yeah. And then, you know, also, in addition to that, we can look and see if there is an energy entangled from before, you know, and then recover that energy and take it back. Because this is the thing now. We don't want to just leave energy hanging about and just say, okay, send it back to source. No, no, no. We are actually taking it back to us. So whenever you have encounters like that, you know, you stay sacred neutral, so you're not entangling, but that doesn't mean that there is some energy that could be recuperated, you know?
Right. And needs resolution.
Exactly. You know, resolution from their side, so you can offer it out and say, look, I'm offering this energy out to you for whenever you're ready. And at the same time, I'm cleaning it for myself using the spin and put it back. You know, so it's like there's a service that you are giving at the same time. There's no outcome attached to it. And at the same time, you are replenishing yourself with that energy.
Well, and that service, you know, goes both ways. Where if we hadn't interacted, that trigger wouldn't have happened, and that memory wouldn't have come in, nor the soul shard from that past experience.
Yeah.
From that timeline, time stream, dimensional reality, whatever it was. But that was a soul shard integration that happened in a huge way for me, although I wouldn't have called it that at the time.
Yeah. And I suppose we could also add another level to that. We could also add another level to that in terms of as we are creating more awareness for ourselves and we're cleaning our system and our energy and everything, we're having, you know, more of those skills, more of that technology, more of that innate technology. We need a better word because people will, you know, misunderstand that technology. We're not machines, but the makeup of ours, you know, our access that we have to different planets, to different, you know, dimensions and everything, that is switching on. And I think this it has been brought to my attention that when that switches on and you're not aware of that, you could trigger people based on that, because you are a conduit. And as a conduit, you might be bringing something through, especially now where the veils are getting so thin, that you're not aware of that you're bringing it through. It might not impact on you because you naturally are that conduit to bring things through, but it might trigger others. It might just be, you know, a change of your voice. You're saying something in a voice that triggers others, and you're thinking, well, there's nothing I've said. I mean, I say this all the time, right? But you're bringing it through from a different place that could create a trigger. Because, you know, let's face it, I mean, we have lots of portals in our bodies, right? And all these portals are opening up now. And this is where, you know, stepping up our energy cleanliness is really, really important. Energy cleanliness, levels of awareness, is the same sort of thing for me, as far as I'm concerned, you know, that level of awareness. Okay, so how do I function now that I didn't function last week because of all the integrations that I've done now? And how is that? Yes, it has an impact on your energy, on your auric field and all of that. But then you could dissect that a little bit again. So what kind of, you know, things have I now activated that all of a sudden trigger other people? Because it's fun to know, you know, what work have I done that just activated that now that all of a sudden I open my mouth, it's like people just running. Or the other way around. The other way around. Anything, you know, it can happen. It can happen.
Yeah, or their eyes glaze over and they yawn and they fall asleep.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's all the
And,
time.
well, and I think too, this sort of like wheat separating from chaff, right? This frequential separation that's happening right now, where we're seeing it. I'm seeing it with everyone that I know, where things that aren't resonating are falling out of people's lives, right? Whether it's longtime friendships, whether it's you know, jobs or living situations, or you know, anything that's not matching is going to fall away. You know, those people who aren't ready to be triggered, who aren't ready to be catalyzed and alchemized just by your presence, they're not going to show up in your life. I have this friend who I've known for a long time, and we keep trying to you know, schedule a time to get together, and it just hasn't happened over the last year. So I'm like, well, okay, you know, we can try, you know, and I'll propose something and then it will get canceled. You know, so that's okay. That's okay. I see it for what it is. I don't know if she does, but that's okay.
Yeah, yeah. And there's also, you know, it happens with food as well, right? I've been drinking coffee with oat milk, and I've been told many times that's not a good thing because it's there's high glucose and God knows what else, gum in it and blah blah blah, and it's just in and out, you know. It's like, yeah, thank you very much, but I like the way it foams and la la la, and probably for, I don't know, a couple of months now, right? And I only drink one coffee a day, so it's you know, it's okay for me. I can transmute that. Now, last week, I made myself a coffee, as I do, and I'm like, oh God, I can't drink that. Oh my God, that's awful. I couldn't do the smell. It couldn't do, and it wasn't related to me thinking, oh, I have to be healthier now and drink. It was none of that. All of a sudden, the body said, no, thank you very much. Don't want that anymore. So this is quite interesting as well, because, you know, that goes in with the oneness principle a little bit. We are one with our bodies, but so much so that we don't even acknowledge that we have a body, but we are not our body, right? Because we're really a soul having a body. So it's almost like the body sometimes feels slightly neglected because we're not really asking what the body wants. What do you want to eat? What do you want to drink? Who do you want to be with? What do you want to wear? You know, and that kind of thing. So it's like, and I used to say that to people, said, oh, I'm so alone and nobody. I said, well, not really. You got your body, right? Why? Start talking to your body. And when I started doing it, it was a bit embarrassing because wherever I went into a shop, okay, so what do you want to have? And la, la, la. So having a conversation with my body. And it's like, until it becomes, you know, so normal that you don't have to speak it out loud anymore. And then you forget again. But then, you know, that was a reminder for me, the body saying, you know what? And now I have enough of that. Let's do something else. But I think that's also that sort of tip and advice, you know, whatever you do over a long period of time, stop doing it. Do something different, mix it all up, right? It's like if you go to work, take a different route, drive a different way, eat something else, don't eat the same thing, you know, that kind of thing. And that's also just to break the algorithms, you know, because we become so predictable. And, you know, it's a good thing in a way sometimes, because I love what the algorithm brings on my feed. When I start talking to people, I'm getting all the right, yeah, okay, cool, yeah, Jason, organized, yep, that's exactly what I need, that kind of thing. But of course, there's a different element in this whole thing of predictability and, you know, domination and manipulation and all of that. But then again, we're not here to destroy the bastardized matrix. We're here to outcreate it, to work with it, and to merge it back into the primordial one. Because there's good stuff in there too that we want to take with us.
Like Christmas.
Like Christmas. Exactly. You could say, oh my God, I'm not going to do Christmas anymore because it's a Gregorian calendar and this is all manipulation. And really, well, yeah, if that's what you want, you can do that. Or you can just say, like you said earlier on, I just like the sparkly and the good smelling and the cookies and the, well, yeah. You do everything you do from a place of awareness is not going to bite you in the ass. It's only when you have those blind spots. And in particular, if you do resist it and react to everything, you're doing yourself more harm than if you just blissfully, ignorantly go for it. Right? No, ignorantly doesn't work anymore. Sorry, I need to cut ignorantly.
Blissfully, yes.
Blissfully, just blissfully.
And
But yeah, allow the joy, and the, you know, those memories of joy and family, and yeah, I mean that's, I think that's celebrating life.
yeah.
You
I mean,
can
it's
look
that
at it as
family
like
time,
a
isn't it?
stagnant tradition, holding in old energy and deconstructing from it, or you can just, you know, own it and love it and, you know, be that innocent heart that plays.
Exactly. And you're going to put your own stamp on it. If you don't want a green tree, well, buy a brown tree or don't buy a tree. I don't have a tree, but I have other decorations because I've got so much decoration from my mom still. I just put that up, you know, but I'll do it differently every time.
Mhm.
And I don't do it for other people. I do it for myself.
Yeah. I like getting a real pine tree. I have a Douglas fir this year. And one of the things I love about doing that is it supports the farmers who you know, grow the trees, and they'll continue to replant every time they take a tree down. And then all of like the love and the care that I give to that tree over the season, you know, the enjoyment I have of it, of the smell and that living being in my house, you know, the decorations that go on it and the love and tenderness that goes into decorating that tree. So, you know, all the needles don't fall off when you're decorating it. You know, and all of the celebration, the meals that we have at the dining room table where, you know, next to that tree, and you know, the prayers and the manifestations and the community that come, all of that energy goes into that being. And then as it goes out to my curb, and you know, San Francisco, what they do every year is they'll after the January 6th, whatever like that week is, they'll bring around the big chippers that turn those trees into mulch. And then that gets put in different places in the city, in the landscaping. So I think all of the love and the care that I put into that Christmas tree, and that everyone who joins me in celebrating, the festivities of the holiday season, then that love and joy and community then will go have a home somewhere within the nature of the city. And I don't know where it's going to go. It might go in a number of different places as it gets mixed with others. But that alchemy, right, that resonant frequency that I hold is infused into that tree and then taken out into the world somewhere and laid in a physical way, that then those little chips of that tree work in that alchemization in the spaces they go to.
Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. And you can't share that with everyone.
Yeah.
I think you're crazy, but absolutely. And this is the aloneness where you are creating that intuitive bliss for yourself that makes perfect sense. That is your truth. Makes perfect sense to many others too. And within that oneness, you're creating this reality. And then that energy gets matched by others that are similar. And this is how we are creating that old reality. Yeah.
And that's part of the power of the element of earth, right? That element of Gaia's tree being a part of Earth Mother. Cultivated, certainly. But what else do we cultivate? Our gardens, fruit trees, roses, vegetable gardens, flowers, allowing that life again to be preserved and celebrated and shared. Goes from me as an individual then out into the community. And does each wood chip have its own individual consciousness on a cellular level? Yeah, certainly does.
And what if that is oneness? When you can see yourself, what if that is true self-love? Because you can see yourself in every needle of that tree that you nurture throughout those weeks and days, right? You can see yourself as the earth, as everything that lives on and in the earth, That is oneness. That is the definition of oneness that I would like to bring forth. That for me is like when you can start perceiving yourself as a part, everything outside yourself is you, represents you. If you're not alone or if you're with 100 of people in a group, it doesn't matter, which means you're never alone. And then you can dissect that and say, well, I can't be alone because my cat's here. I can't be alone because my body is here. I can't be alone because this is the Christmas tree. That is me. And that is why we're talking about a consciousness evolution and revolution, because that's a level of awareness that's not necessarily easily understood yet.
There was something that AB talked about a number of times in, throughout his many shows, where he talks about seeds, having seeds and putting, prayers and energy into seeds. And even sleeping with a pouch around your neck, sleeping with seeds on your heart, right, to connect to the dreaming body. And then going and planting those seeds, right? And so I would challenge, or inspire anyone listening to go get some flower seeds, get your vegetable seeds now and start putting those prayers and love into those seeds. You know, and wildflower seeds, they can be planted now if you don't have frozen ground. I don't here in San Francisco. And then those seeds cultivate, you know, in the darkness, in the dark dirt. And then the spark of life happens in the spring when they start to grow. But also your intention and your prayers and your love and care goes into that. The same way I'm putting that into my Christmas tree, right? And then that goes out into the world to become something new, something more than what it once was, more than what you are and more than what it is. It brings that oneness together. And then the bees and the butterflies enjoy it, right? The birds maybe enjoy it, the insects, whatever is in your that ecosystem where you're planting those seeds. You know, take those wildflower seeds and plant them in your yard, but plant them in other places too. Allow that energy to be seeded in your community. And then see, you know, how you feel. Feeling the oneness with all of a sudden oneness with a neighbor who had that bare patch of dirt right in front of their house in that tree, and you've planted some of those seeds where you've given prayers, and now all of a sudden, you know, you're friendly with that neighbor. You didn't know them before. So allowing for that intentional alchemy to also create community that enhances your life and the life of that other person, or the life of, you know, the birds or bees or butterflies that are in your area.
Beautiful.
Preserver.
Preserver.
But
Absolutely.
preserver, but creator.
Server. Serve. We are
Server.
serving. Exactly. Serving the creation. And as you're saying this, of course, we can also use our thoughts as seeds, our ideas that we put out there. I mean, this is what we're doing with these shows. We are seeders. We are not, well, I speak for myself, I'm not one of those teachers or anything. I'm a seeder, just putting ideas out, putting inspirations out, putting, you know, imaginations out for some, because, you know, all of those thoughts and ideas, they're hanging in the global field, in the field of consciousness, in the collective field. And it might be picked up, God knows by whom, but just us, you know, spreading our joy, our passion, our ideas, our play, our discovery, you know, without being attached to anyone picking them up or not, because we can keep working with those. It's all available in the big field. There is nothing. Individuality doesn't mean that you are separate. We're not separate. Nothing is separate. We have boundaries in our expanded space that we are, but there are no secrets really. And also we're getting to that stage now where through the energies that are really heightening, it's going to be very, very difficult to keep secrets if anybody wants to still do that, because our psychic abilities are switching on. And I think, you know, we're perceiving this now already. You can speak to somebody, the words that are coming out of their mouth don't match the energy. We don't even have to wait if they put an action in or not. It's like, well, I'm a bit confused here. What I'm hearing, it makes no sense. This doesn't match the energy at all. But then this takes us to this authenticity. This is what this is all about. You got to become authentic. It's not about the words. It's not about the knowledge that you're bringing out there. It's not about, it's like you're authentic delivery. Because everything can be Googled now. If anyone thinks, oh, she could have presented that better. Well, yes, you're right. Of course I could. Go Google it. Find your own way of presenting it. It's just one way. It's just my particular way. And my particular way is filtered through my experiences. And not just this lifetime, all the lifetimes. And now, of course, everything that is coming together. Because we're living now the past, the present, and the future. Everything's happening at the same time. Literally. And we sometimes get confused because sometimes, you know, you might bring stuff out, it's like, whoosh, who said that? That was a shard that wants to have it say as well. And of course, that's where I am quite sort of, from a fortified I am perspective, this is not something that is not to be dealt with, because we are the avatar. We are the boots on the ground. So I'm not having this that I'm walking, all of a sudden I'm saying something that has, you know, I need to be aware of that. There is this a control function? Maybe there's a slight control in this, or is it an awareness that that is not necessary? We don't have to be, we're not channeling anything. We're not channelers. We are getting that information. It is our choice which information we're going to pull together and when it is presented. Because otherwise this is getting too confusing. And then the authenticity goes. Because you're no longer talking to one person. You know, you're talking to 5 different persons in one conversation. Because all these different shards popping in. This is starting then turn into a multiple, you know, personality kind of thing. That's not what multidimensionality is.
Yeah. And as all those soul shards come together, then that allows you, you know, what is it, 1728 soul shards in harmonic one that originate from our one, that one part of ourselves that incarnated into the time matrix in that 12th dimensional energy. You know, in that first through third dimensional energy, now from that one, there's 728. Could be in a different timeline, a different time stream, past lifetime, you know, those as they come back for integration. Then we move up to the next level of awareness, the 144. And I just noticed your background, Martina, the beans. I mean, I've noticed it, but I realized they're beans. And beans are food, but they're also seeds.
Oh, yeah, stones, yeah, beans.
Each one of those is a seed, right? That can make a bean plant.
I knew it. Thank you. I would never think of that. Of course, yeah, exactly.
I find, you know, working with the clients that I do, that when someone is talking about a conflict with another individual, you know, I have the ability to see the energy behind the energy and the soul shards behind the energy. You know, and so often conflict that's happening in the here and now is because it's a past life resolution, some kind of karmic resolution that's not occurring in this time stream or dimensional reality. So, you know, as we are the sum of all of those parts, all of the experiences, like you were saying, that we've had in different lifetimes and different universes and galaxies and dimensional realities, you know, we bring that wisdom, but we also are collectively beginning to reawaken to that wisdom as all of these parts and pieces come back together.
Yeah. We're going to pull those strings, you know, we are pulling the strings together. And that, you know, I mean, this is, sounds like it's an inherent capacity that we have. Because it's actually quite a complex idea of living in all these different dimensions at the same time. Because literally it's like, yeah, you might be a grass, you know, what do you call it, a grass, piece of grass in a different dimensions. But then again, you know, you have lives, not just in other dimensions that you never, is a possibility that you meet another version of yourself in this lifetime. I think there's that misinterpretation of soul mate that is often, you know, especially for relationships, that gets slightly misinterpreted, but it's possible. It's possible.
Possible that person coming together with you in this dimensional reality is one of those 728 parts of you.
Yeah, I've never heard that number, but hey ho, yes. And I think
1700, not 700. Yeah.
Yeah.
1728.
Right. So yeah, it's possible. And I mean, they might live a similar life to you. I have I was once told that I have my family, Paul and Emma. I'm the mother, Emma is the child, and Paul is the father, and we have a life together in the Isle of Man, but we're different people. I think I told the story before. He's an artist. Emma is, at the time when he told me, Emma had like purple hair and she was a bit of a rebel, that kind of thing. And we owned a hotel on the Isle of Man. And it was yeah, okay, thank you. Interesting information. It's like, what do I do with this now? And then, because I need to prove everything somehow. And then I had to acknowledge that during my corporate days, I spent a few weeks on the Isle of Man. And I do remember being in a hotel. And I'd never met the owner, but it was very, very weird being there. So much so that I still remembered the feeling that I had. It was a very eerie feeling. It felt slightly, I couldn't really, I haven't really explored it any further, but it was already something there that I knew that I had not acknowledged.
Mm.
And when I was told that story, I'm like, oh my God, yes. It was Abi at the time, and he actually said to me that that lady there was aware of me, and she observed me at dream time, or God knows, you know, we get observed all the time, because I had managed to get out of corporate, and she did no longer want to have that hotel. She wanted to get out as well. And I'm like, okay, all right, what can I teach you? Oh, you don't even know. It's like, this is so cool. A bit freaky in a way. It's like, oh. And then Paul was an artist. And I'm thinking, oh shit, let's swap. I'll take the artist.
And here you are,
Now
you've
I'm
taken the artist. Yeah.
So it's just like, wow. When you hear this, of course, you know.
May I just before, because when Tanya was speaking about, you know, beans and the seeds and putting the seeds, so, and before I leave, I will try something. Wait. So this is, do you see this?
Yes.
Okay. So this is in Paracas in South America, where, you know, where they have all these different beans, you know, these very multicolored beans. So actually the story about the evolution of man is the one of the bean. You see the little bean from the beginning, and then he becomes man.
Fantastic.
And I fell so in love with this.
I can imagine.
Because I was like, this is absolutely fantastic. These little beans, human beings. I'm going to put it in the chat so you can have the picture.
I thought that's funny. When I was a little kid and people would say human beings, I thought they meant human
Beans, right?
beings.
I love it.
Like, how can you be a bean and a human at the same time? Well, now we know.
Now
That's
we
the
know, you
origin
see?
story. That's an origin story.
Yeah.
I once was at a music camp when I was in high school, and I looked across the courtyard. It was at University of Wisconsin where I went to school, I looked across the courtyard and I saw the profile of one of the students, and her profile looked so much like my profile. I just thought, oh my God, there's another me.
Mm.
And I got chills that went from my head all the way over my body, down to my toes, down to the ends of my fingers. And I was just like too freaked out to even go talk to her or anything like that. I was like, what the hell is that? What just happened? But
But
there was some kind of energetic recognition that I had of that person as a part of me.
this is what I had when I went to the hospital. My bedroom neighbor, you know, I looked at her and I was like, that's me. Wait, I mean, I saw her night. She had put out the nightgown with stupid Minnie Mouse on it, and I had to. I mean, she was at least 20 years older than me, but she had this Minnie Mouse nightgown, and I was like, "That's cute." And she's like, "I know it doesn't suit my age, but I love it." And I'm like, "This so me," you know, because I said I nearly have the same at home, so we can switch. No, but just I looked at her and I was like, okay, that's me, and I know you from somewhere, someplace, and we just, you know, we also connected. And when we said goodbye, I don't have her number, I don't need her number, because I just met her, and it's me, and it's fine, you know, and it was great.
Exactly. But it's also sometimes you, I don't know, I went through a phase, I think I was still in Austria at the time, where people walked up to me and said, hey, do I know you? And I never understood that until I realized, until I learned that obviously, you know, we travel a lot and our imprint is with us. So be this now during dream time or in different dimensions, you know, where we, you know, because I would almost say, like, we know every time we have a different reincarnation, be this now male or female, let's say in human form, there is a similarity of our sort of appearance that we're bringing back very often, especially if we go through one life where we do very little, you know, resolution, karmic resolution. So that made me realize that, yeah, we are all over the place, and people literally, they do see us.
Or recognize us. I mean, this is something, recognize in a sense that
Recognize the energy, yes.
yeah, because this is what happened to me when I was on Easter Island. I mean, it like people looked at me, and it was a feeling like I'm home, you know, and of islanders, you know, it's mostly islanders and tourists. So tourists didn't look at me. It was just the islanders that looked at me like, and then, you know, this recognition in the eyes and saying hi, but in a different way, like you would say hi to a tourist. Honestly, you know, you sense there is a difference, right? It's not me making this shit up, because I'm meeting, you know, strangers every day, and you say hi. But, you know, when you connect with the people and you're like, oh, hi, you know, like long lost friend, haven't seen you in a while. How are you? In this type of way, you know, so that was absolutely fantastic. And I really think there's still a strong tie to there, you know, for me, that I need to explore more at one stage.
Yeah, this is a good point, actually. You know, when things like that or anything like that happens, similar to where you have a recognition of something, or you feel drawn to, like I felt drawn to this golden map, and a reaction or not, in terms you don't have to have a physical reaction, start crying or anything like that. Just like, hey, this is interesting. Follow that energy, you know? And don't, you know, I'm not a meditator, so I can't sit home and just close my eyes and then all of a sudden, you know, I'm having no, I need to follow the energy. So I need to speak to somebody, or, you know, Google something, and then I say, okay, no, it's not that, it's not that, it's not that. Okay, yeah, that. Let me look at that. You know, it's almost like following the breadcrumbs, that kind of discovery. And I think the more you the more you are actually consciously do that, the more this whole thing, you're no longer hung up about, oh, I don't have a mystical experience, because it's not fucking mystical. It's like you being a detective, right? It's just like, okay. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is magical, but it's a different kind of magic. It's not a magic that happens to you. It's a magic that you're creating because you're following the energy.
Mm.
You know?
Right.
And the more I think we do that, the more we start recognizing that we create our reality with others, in conjunction with what's happening around us, with the choices that we make.
Mm.
I think following the energy is a really important phraseology. When Melanie was visiting a few weeks ago, we were driving around, and she's been sort of playing this game where she's looking for repeating numbers on license plates. And everywhere we went, we would see 111, 222, 333, 4444, 44, 888. And she's like, I guess we're on the right track. So those repeating numbers to her was a recognition that she was on the right path, right? If she wasn't seeing any repeating numbers, she was going to shift her perspective. And I thought, oh, that's an interesting way to, look at that, those repeating numbers as confirmation that you're on the right path, that you're on the right track, that whatever you're tracking down, whether it be via the internet or a physical journey, follow your intuition, follow your instinct, and then you're gonna be on that right path. So then you can look for those repeating numbers like confirmation.
For me, because I'm back in Europe and I'm, here or in this, around me, we listen a lot to radio, so if I come into the kitchen, then there is the radio playing. If it's a different station. If I'm in different places, in a sense, if I'm in my car, it's a different station playing. But the song that is following me around since a couple of weeks now, is from Coldplay and So We Pray. Every time I put on, at what time ever I put on the radio, it plays. And I'm like, okay, interesting, I will at one stage I will sit down and listen to it, in one setting, but it follows me a little bit around since the retreat we had in September, because Tim was playing it as well. But since that time, since I'm back here, it just follows me around. So it's really, really strange.
Yeah, get the lyrics, get the whole lyrics, because it might not just be the title. There might be just a line in the lyrics. But
exactly.
You see, that's actually perfect. Another superb little tip here and hint, talk about oneness. That is part of the oneness. Making, the number plates work for you. Making songs work for you. That's how it works. And how much fun is that? I do this with, the bits that find me, that I still have around. I'm like, okay, so what do you want? What are you here for, And it's so funny. I've bought this, I don't even have the word. It's out of silver, and it's like what's Ritterrüstung?
It's
like
a
soldier in
a soldier's
got all
armory, an armory.
Stuff, the armory, right? I've had this guy standing there for a long time. Not that, and I kept it because it's silver. I thought, okay, let's keep it. And today I was looking at Jason the Argonauts, and I just put in thing and all the images, and he came up and it's like really struck me. I'm like, I got this guy in my cabinet for years. I haven't figured out yet what but at least I took him out of the cabinet now. He's now standing in my living room. It's like, okay, let's talk whenever you're ready. So this is how I get through my day, you know, whilst talking to real people. It's like, again, we're still talking.
You have a date later on.
Yeah, I have a date with my.
And on that note, I do have another date.
Yes. Okay. Off
Love
you
you guys. Speak to you.
Big hugs, big
go.
hugs.
Big
Yeah,
hugs.
thanks for putting this
Bye.
Thank you. So yeah, I'm exploring that at the moment. So if anything pops in,
Well, it's interesting that Jason and the Argonauts, the Golden Fleece, we went to see the movie Gladiator, right?
okay.
The other day, and looking at, you know, the armor of the Roman army. You know, it's interesting as these, you know, people come in who are, to me, who are integrating soul shards and past lifetimes. If they were in the Roman army or the Greek army, oftentimes what I'll see is energetic armor on them that
Ah,
holds an energy binding,
mm,
you know, keeping them in that programming. You know, the Roman Empire, there were a lot of vows and agreements that were made.
yes, yes,
And
yes.
so I always know, oh, I got to send that person a vow release, whether they do it or not. You know, it's not my.
Well, good on you to be able to see that, you know, because I mean that's you can't take this away. Once you've seen it, you can't unsee it, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And those are such beautiful intuitive hints while when you're working, because you can take it to a completely different. And even though it might not come to you right away, right? It's like,
Mhm.
okay, well, let's park this here for now. And then, you know, the person might say the one thing. It's like, ah, now the drive.
Mhm.
Now I
Mhm.
can say it. Amazing. And as
Yeah,
there's always a religious connotation to that as well, isn't it? Because
sure.
lots of those religious wars have been fought around those times and everything. Yeah.
Well, and the energy binding on the grid system right there. You know, think about like Rome and where the Vatican is. There's a reason that was built where it is, you know, to
Mm,
hold the energy of that earth portal, of that Stargate, right?
mm,
If you can control that, you know, you're controlling perception.
yes.
Mhm. Just like the origin of species, right? Came in and controlled perception and still does,
Yeah.
right? But we're alchemists and going through an evolution where we can again outcreate that energy.
Yeah. And the control of perception is very much related to the harvesting of the energies, right?
Mhm,
Because
mhm.
we are being harvested through perception. Because it's often a difficult, what does it mean? How they don't come and scratch your, you know, I don't know, shoulder to take energy or suck blood out of you. No, that's not how it's done. It's that harvesting through
Mhm.
keeping your perception.
Yeah. And it's interesting, you know, to me how those beings in higher dimension that are harvesting that energy, that belief system, that dedication to that belief system, even if an individual might not hold that belief system, but their ancestral lineage did, right? That energy can continue to be harvested from the ancestral lineage.
Very good point. Very good point. And that leads us back to you being the avatar of your lineage. And this is the responsibility of the self-mastered individual, knowing that, you know, so many people have so much, oh, my ancestors, and they did this and this and that. First of all, you were your ancestors,
Mhm.
you know. So we're standing on the shoulders. We're not standing on the shoulders of the ancestors. We're standing in our boots right here, right now. And as we are elevating ourselves, all those ancestral shards have an opportunity to do that too.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
we are enabling them to do that, because this is the graduation timeline. And this is why it's quite funky at the moment when some people feel a bit like confused, is because So every single soul shard of yours has the opportunity to go through the awakening process now. And that's super, super, super powerful and exciting if you can coordinate with them. And, you know, not absorb, but connect and project that energy into you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the confusion that we're sometimes going through is like they're all going through that, and you are perceiving it. So if I take this example, like you know, that other alternate me living in the Isle of Man, if she's going through shit, I perceive that on some level, conscious or unconscious. And that's why I think sometimes when you wake up and you're exhausted, you know, oh, I don't know, I'm so tired, I didn't go for a run, I didn't do this. Well, no, because there's so many other possibilities to consider, right?
Definitely. Well, in the way that we bunny hop through our ancestral lineage, you know, we might like be 4 or 5 generations back the way we incarnated in our lineage on, you know, either side, maternal or paternal. But we are not our ancestors' trauma. When
Yes,
there's trauma that holds, when there's energy coming through that's not ours per se, we can transmute it. We can release it or let it flow all the way through. You know, and doing that work, having the awareness that, you know, maybe there was trauma that happened on your dad's mother's side that's still affecting you, but it can be transmuted. That energy can be cleared out of the DNA code and transmuted in a way that it makes us stronger
exactly.
and more aware. Yeah.
Replenish. Take that. If you want to see this as a stuck energy, you're replenishing by cleaning, by clearing, putting it out there for teaching, for learning, and then you just take it back, you know?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You can keep running on that hamster wheel where you trip over it again and again and again and again and again. But at some point, you have to learn the lesson of letting it go.
Yeah. And I suppose if we mention that, we also need to mention the future selves of ours, because it's not just everything's happening in the present moment now. So even the future, which of course is slightly more exciting, because, you know, that's maybe, okay, what do you know that I haven't acknowledged yet here? So how can I use that information as an idea to put out there, to put forward, to start creating that ancient future now?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because frankly, I mean, and then, you know, if we go expand ourselves back out again, you know, what is the mission of every single one of us really is to karmically resolve all the crap that we created over the last, 54 million years.
Yeah.
If you want to call it, you know, cleaning the matrix out, or dealing with the timeline paradox, with all the lifetimes that you've ever, it doesn't matter. We're here. We are literally, this is what we have come here for. Every single one of us, right? To clear out this matrix, to help, to serve, preserve, remember.
Peeling back the layers of programming over centuries and centuries and centuries and centuries, to stand in that place of original intention and original power from the heart of pure source.
And we're not just doing this for us. We're not just doing this for humanity even. We're actually literally doing it for all the species out there that we are connected to and with. Because we, you know, as people who have lots star seeds, founders, whatever you want to call yourself, this is all connected. Everything that you're achieving here now has an impact on those different planets, galaxies, universes, wherever those beings are. And then, of course, you know, we've got those species want to come in so that we can literally get back to become a galactic version We are supposed to be galactic humans. Homo galacticus or something like that. Illuminatus, whatever you want. No, I don't get, but galacticus, yeah, galactic citizenship. I love that. And then, it's almost like, I'm like, so many people say, well, this is a school. Earth is a school. Yeah. Yeah, it's a school. So how much longer do we have to go to school? Come on, let's graduate. Let's get the fuck out of here. Let's do something else. Let's go and seed what we did with the Earth. Let's go and seed other planets. Create life, right? That's what we've come here for eventually, once we have sorted this balava out. We're going to go and seed other planets because there is no limit to that.
Yeah.
Create a couple more Earths. We're already doing that, but there's other stuff, or become a planet, or become a star, right? I think that's
Yeah.
become a star, but or maybe not. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll
I'm
have
gonna go have some holiday fun with one of my friends who was a star. He's
Oh,
incarnated here and he was a star.
are you
We'll
a
go have
star?
some fun tomorrow. Yeah.
So what does he say about that? How was that for him, her?
Him, he is, I mean, came to me as one of my clients and became one of my friends. And I mean, there's many things he says about that, right? But I think coming from that origin, it's a lot to bring all of that starlight and that power into a human sphere and integrate it and recognize it and own it and shine it. So he shines. He
Oh,
shines so brightly.
oh, put him on your Christmas tree. See if you can have him for your Christmas tree for the top.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh
It's a little
my
picture.
God. A beautiful you, obviously reflecting that shine in
Yeah.
yourself and so beautifully matching it.
Yeah,
So
great.
thank
Well, it's really great to see you
And
today.
you,
Thanks for
and
the
you,
conversation and the
yes.
inspiration and the beans and the seeds and
Yeah, those are literally beans. I had no idea.
yeah.
You're right.
Next week is in the galactic calendar is a seed day, a galactic seed. Today is the magnetic earth.
Mhm.
And so that galactic seed is day 8 in this 13-day cycle that includes the solstice. So I won't be around next week. I'm having house guests, so I'll miss you.
Okay, well, okay, fantastic. All right. Well, and then I think it's Christmas already, isn't it?
And then New Year's the week after.
Okay. So then we see you in the next year.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, let's see what we're gonna do. But anyway, we speak in between.
And it's 11/11/11.
Right now. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Oh, we're so good. What's here? 9/11, 1911.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Good, my darling.
Right.
Okay, well, thanks for being here. For all
Thank you. Love you so much.
Love you too. Hey.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.